Hi, I am SB Rawz. I am a coach and a messy whole human. And this is Kim Kristensen joining me for another all up in it conversation, 35-ish minutes from reporting from the complicated and exhilarating midst of learning. Thanks for coming to play with me, Kim.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm delighted. And I would love to just ask you to start us off the way I always start us off by telling us a little bit about how you understand or see or describe yourself as a human these days.
Ooh, yeah, that's the one. I think that when you mentioned that earlier, it just got deer in the headlights. Okay. And I thought, well, I just won't script anything. So what comes off out of me right now is um, being present occasionally, doing my best to be not part of the problem, whatever that means.
Yeah.
At least not adding to the problems as little as possible. Not all that important in the grand scheme of things. And I'm not putting myself down. I think I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
And although everything would go better between us if you just realize it's all about Kim. However, in lieu of that, not all that important. Yeah, how do I describe myself? Wanting to add something of value, and I believe I am adding something of value in the world on a more or less daily basis. So maybe giving a little bit more than I'm taking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Oh,
And
and also being like, I loved how you described it. It's just, I think somebody once called it the full catastrophe, but just a messy human being with feelings and thoughts and behaviors, all of that.
yeah, all of that. Because it's in your signature, I want to ask you a next step in the same question, which is how do you describe a warrior?
Oh, as in warrior, not worrier, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay.
An important distinction.
Yes, I can be the other one too sometimes. Yeah, for me, warrior, and sometimes I sign my email with the word steadfastly because I really mean that, because warrior is steadfast, but I see the warrior energy that I bring to some things not as combative, quite the opposite, more as protective, as holding space, a solid container for things to happen with a person or people. Who will step in when necessary to help prevent injury, harm. Yeah. I'm sure there's more. It's more of a warrior from behind, leading from behind type of warrior energy, rather than, thumping, chest thumping, I've got my sword in my hand. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a fierce and compassionate energy at the same
I
time.
love that.
Yeah.
Fierce and compassionate. Yeah, that's beautiful.
The warrior energy, one time, a much older man who's no longer with us, a long time ago, I was going off on him about something many years ago, that I was upset about something he had said and done. And he stopped me and he said, Kim, I love you too much to let you do this.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, I can feel it now. And it really touched me because that was a fierce compassion. And it ended really well because he helped kind of help me rein myself back in and go, okay, what is it I really want? What's going on for me? So that was fierce compassion, in my opinion.
Oh, that's beautiful. It reminds me of a quote I love from a writer named Arne Garborg. I've never actually read anything that he's written. I just know this one quote. And he said, to love someone is to sing the song of their heart back to them when they've forgotten it. And it sounds like that's what he did for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I get goosebumps on that one. That is a beautiful one.
Yeah, and a beautiful experience that you had of a fierce love. My goodness. Um, well, so what are you all up in these days, my friend? What are you in the midst of learning?
I am learning a lot of things. So, just full disclosure, of course, I'm in the middle of a separation after 25 years of marriage, and it's going remarkably well. That's something you don't hear that often. Um, yes, because I am also a family mediator. So let me rephrase that. It's something I don't hear that often because
Mhm.
I see people in family mediation and probably 4 out of 5 times things aren't going that well and they're more combative. And so in my case here, it's going really well and very peaceful. We're on the same page with everything, which is amazing. I'm going to knock on wood, wooden desk here. So far, so good. It's also uncomfortable and painful and sad
Mhm.
at the same time. So it's just
Yeah.
this big ball of feelings and things that are going on with it. So I just thought I'd put that out. That's something that
Yeah.
I'm working with, and it's quite an educational experience. I'm really learning from it.
Yeah.
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 What-
Time for reflection on, you know, what what happened and what went right and what didn't go so right and what I might do differently in the future. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the opportunity. And also how I can be a loving partner still through this whole thing, and
Mhm.
and a loving partner to myself as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
reaching out for support,
Mhm.
which is oh yes, I mean there's that too. And
Yeah.
not like, the 2 a.m. drunk call to somebody, but maybe that too, I don't know. But more along the lines of reaching out to on a more regular basis, not just in crisis, but people I have been reaching out to
Mhm.
continue to, not to forget that, and to let them support me because sometimes I don't.
Yeah. Is that a stretch for you to allow people to support you?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know, I've got this, I can do it myself. Only child. So
Uh-huh.
yeah. So grew up being rather independent and
Mhm.
also a bit needy at times.
Sure, human.
I'll own it, yeah. And so just balancing that a little bit and
Mm,
not waiting till I'm needy to reach out in a
mhm.
place that also supports the other person. So yesterday I reached out to somebody who is in a similar position, but worse, and was supporting him. And not much came up about my situation because it really was about him. But,
Mm,
and by giving what I want to get, it helps feed me.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I get from giving what I want to get.
Yes. Yeah, I get that. I get that. And I also get how holding space for other people going through similar things, right? Whatever the intention of the space, right? Like that we do often learn about ourselves along the way. And yeah, I wonder if you have a sense of what you're learning about yourself these days, or if it's still sort of an amorphous, like being with it place.
Oh, I am learning about myself. Learning that some of the things that I thought I had resolved, old stuff, are popping up again
Mhm.
sometimes, and noticing that I'm feeling ambushed by them, and
Mm,
that's a term I got from Stephen Jenkinson, who is a musician and writer and speaker on death and dying. But he talked about being ambushed by grief, and I know as I
yeah.
get ambushed by both sadness and anger and things like that, I'm going, whoa, where did that come from? So it feels
Mhm.
like an ambush, but then as I dig under it, I'm going, oh, you, my old friend. Oh, you again. I've forgotten all about you. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you're still there. And so there's
Yeah.
some learning experiences there. Um,
Mm,
tell you one thing that has come up. I just want to tell you is looking at, and I mentioned death and dying, and I know not to wax morbid, but more realistic. I'm getting older, as a lot of people are. I'll be 69 years old in 2 months,
mhm,
and I'm still feeling pretty good and vibrant. But all my other friends are getting, really getting older. So,
mhm.
And
Poor suckers.
oh yes, I don't know. And so I did a little reunion thing that turned into a more of a memorial, a celebration of life type of situation when
Mhm.
I reconnected with 5 people that I knew from my teenage years.
Mm.
Some were from high school and from my senior year, and other ones were from my background when I was in the circus. And I was in the circus. I grew up in the circus. That's another topic. And so I decided I'd kind of lost touch with all these people, and I decided here was the thing I said when I reached out to them. Hey, they're all in Florida, where I was born. I said, hey, I'm coming to Florida, for like a week or 10 days, and wanted to reconnect with you, just say hi, and let's just catch up because, before one of us dies. And
Mm.
nobody blinked when I said that. They went, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point, before one of us dies. So I did that. I did it in two trips, one month, and then 2 months later, another trip. In between those 2 trips, one of the people I connected with died.
Wow.
Very unexpectedly, totally in good health as far as anybody knew. His aorta separated from his heart while he was sitting in his chair. And it happened
Wow.
right after we'd had a phone call a few hours later. And we laughed a little bit. And so it was a good way to remember. Eric was his name.
Mm.
And so then when I went down the second time, I went for a celebration of life for him and reconnected with a lot of old friends, old acquaintances. And I didn't recognize some of them. And they would come up I'm going, hey, Kim. I'm going, hi, like that. Hi. And he's going, Mike, I'm Mike. I'm going, oh, shoot, Mike. And then I was like backpedaling. I didn't recognize you with your hat on.
Right.
I just didn't recognize him until he spoke his name, and then it all came back. So it was kind of
Yeah.
funny. But reconnecting and realizing there's mortality, it's always there. As my former boss said once, Kim, we're all a heartbeat away from eternity.
Mm.
And yeah, and so, once again, but obviously, the actuarial tables say that it's much more likely to happen as we get older. And I'm just reconnecting with them, and it's one of them was a girlfriend I had, the first long-term girlfriend I had, which was in high school, and her husband was in his dying stages, in his dying process, and he also died before the second visit back there. So I went to 2 celebrations of life memorials when I was down there. And they were both very positive and upbeat, and they were truly celebrations of life. But
Mm.
all that just, got me thinking, wow. Which brought up the other thing I'm into, which a little bit more of exploring or re-exploring things. Like
Mhm.
when I went to Florida, I was born there, spent 30 years there. I'd never seen a manatee.
Wow.
No, well, it's not true. I saw one at one of the like SeaWorld or something like
Oh,
that. But I
yeah.
mean, not
Yeah.
not in the not. I mean, there's a place there, Crystal River, and some other places where they just congregate every January, and so I went to see them in their natural habitat, just like giant baked potatoes, floating around, frolicking, and whatever. It was beautiful. Yeah,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, and went to Epcot Center at Disney World, which not normally my thing.
Mhm.
However, while I was there, I went into one of the exhibits. There was some uh, relics from the past that were from the Viking era. I was in the Norway exhibit. I'm half
Mhm.
Danish, so I can connect a little to that. And it turns out that those relics were from a museum where one of my best friend's wife works in Norway. And
Oh,
so I took
wow.
pictures of them. And so I had another connection, and I just finding these connections all over. Um,
Mm.
yeah. And she said, oh, yes, those are on loan. And we come down once a year to check on them, especially in the winter from Norway to Florida.
Right. Just for business. It's purely professional.
It's purely professional, and we got to do it once a year as curators. So we have to check on them, and why not check on them in the winter time when you're going to Florida?
Truly.
That's part of the exploring. I've been there before, but this time it looked a
Mhm.
little different to me. I'm going to Asheville next week weekend after next, to work with some coach type stuff, but also going to see the Biltmore. Well, I've been there before, and I used to say, I'll be damned if I'm going to pay to see how rich people lived. It's just, well, I'm paying to see how rich people lived. Because I also want to see the architecture and the art and the boutiques and the beauty of it all. And so I'm going to still, on principle, I don't like the idea of giving money in that way, but it also supports it. It's more like a big museum. Yeah. So I'm going to do some things I wouldn't normally do, and learn from it.
Oh, I love that. And I have this image of you in my mind that there's just like this expansiveness of what you're describing, like it's stretching from into your past and into your future, and it's traversing the world, and it's also an expanding beyond boundaries perhaps you thought you had, right? Challenging, it's there's always something rich to challenging, and always or never, I think.
I think that it is challenging, and I'm doing little ones. I'm not like doing the huge things, but these are small challenges, meaning I just wouldn't normally do these things. And there was a coach named James Garrett, and I'm going to totally paraphrase something, but he said, but I got it from him. And he said, almost everything you want or long for is waiting for you right on the other side of discomfort. Yeah. And it's not like I want to just make myself uncomfortable. That's kind of masochistic. But if there's something I want, but I've been avoiding it because it's been, quote, a little uncomfortable, then I think now it's my time to get a little more uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you have, like, how do you distinguish between the discomfort that is a little masochistic and like discomfort that is values aligned or heading toward learning?
I think you named it. About if it's aligned with my values, if it's something that I like, I'm doing it just so I can like have bragging rights and say I did it. And it's really uncomfortable. I was going to go to some weekend where they bury you in the dirt up to your neck, and then they leave you there overnight. And I'm like, wow, that sounds really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does.
And then I went, okay, and why do I want to do this? So I can tell people, hey, yeah, I actually did this thing. And I'm going, well, that is pretty egotistical. And but the truth is, it is way out of my comfort zone. I don't see a huge benefit for it. It's not aligned with my values that much. And so I didn't do it. Yeah. So I kind of look into what is my intention? And what am I imagining Kim doing in the future? Thumping my chest and telling people I did this, or having a really truly transformative experience that's in alignment with my values and who I am.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I so appreciate the clarity of that question, right? Like, I think the ego sometimes wants to, and I'm not super down on the ego, it's how we use it, I think, but that the ego wants us to thump our chests sometimes.
Sure. And it's so, hey, if it's both of those, it's a twofer. Okay, I'll take it. If it's transformative and it's going to be cool telling a few friends about this experience, I'm going to feel good about it. I can go with that.
Yeah, I'm for that. We are a communal species, right?
Yeah.
So as you're experiencing this really, I mean, does expansiveness feel like a meaningful word to you? That's how I feel as I listen to what you're describing.
It's strangely expansive and contractive. Is that a word?
And now it is.
It is now. I have toys in front of me all the time. They're not so much fidget things as I use them in coaching and in training, but I always have my Hoberman spear in front of me. And so it's this, and then with every time there's this, for me, there's also that.
Yes.
In that is where sometimes I integrate and consolidate what what this was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a, I'm kind of going out and then pulling in and going, let's let that percolate and ferment a bit, and then back again.
Yeah.
Overall expansive. I don't think I come back to the same exact spot that I was. And so I think there's these perturbations of expansiveness and contraction. Something moves in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I get that. And I also get that sense of breath, right? That we're always in
It's
an
very much
experience
like
of
breath.
expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
can't keep taking in breaths.
Right.
I can try, but it's going to get really uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so we're always in sort of a flux. I love how you describe that. It makes me want to get out my Hoberman sphere and play. And anybody who
Oh, look at that. That's so
yeah.
cool. Oh, wow. I like them.
I hope anybody who
Very
listens
Hoberman
to this
spheres.
instead of watches it looks up a Hoberman sphere if they don't know it, because to me it's one of the coolest things. Like everybody should have a Hoberman sphere.
It represents so many things for me. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, and they're just fun, right? They're
Yeah,
just neat
absolutely.
toys. So, along with your breath and your values and your Hoberman sphere, are there other tools, whether internal or external, that are helping you traverse this time of learning and being all up in it?
Yeah. Um, Probably what I call my PBS moments. Not the TV station, which I love, but the or radio, but the more it's an acronym for me for pause,
Mm.
breathe, and then sense, and that would be SENSE. So I want to quote somebody else who's a pretty controversial figure sometimes, Brad Blanton. He wrote a book called Radical Honesty, and he created a whole network of radical honesty training and trainers, and he calls it a cult, lovingly. The wild man from Texas originally. And one thing he said was, and again, I'm going to probably not get it perfect, is life is sensational when you're sensational.
Mm.
And the S in the PBS is is sensation. And what he meant by life is sensational, both feeling wise, and it's great when you're sensational, when you are in tune with your sensations, inside, outside. And what I mean by outside, meaning inside, meaning what am I noticing physically in my body right now? What's coming up without judging it, wrapping a big story around it.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is what are my senses taking in? How are my eyes grabbing at the world visually?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it like to soften my eyes and just let light in because I don't have to grab at it?
Yeah.
So those PBS moments are moments of just pause, take a breath or two. And like now, I'm noticing some gray trees. There's a brush pile out there. And I'm avoiding I need to do something about that brush pile out my window. Although it did come up. And just noticing, yeah, brush pile. And then just looking, yeah, and feeling into that. And there's a dialing down of the busyness in my mind and body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tool I use periodically. I call it, it's kind of my form of meditation. And when some friends of mine ask me, when or how often do you meditate, or how, I meditate at stoplights.
Mm-hmm.
So I do micro meditations where I stop myself periodically throughout the day, and just the first time I step outside in the morning out of my home, and just automatically I just stop, and it's kind of like, the groundhog coming out, right? I kind of blink my eyes a little and look around and take a deep breath of whatever the air feels and smells and tastes like, and just look around. And then
Beautiful.
however long that lasts, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one of the tools I use to I would say helps me be a little more, quote, present, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And the other one is feeling my feelings that I do a lot of, which is just noticing what emotions are bubbling up. And then I do name them first as a sensation, and then so I can feel stuff. I feel a lot of stuff like in my chest and gut, and and noticing that, and then going, oh, what's going on there? Getting curious about it, and then letting it be and feeling it, and then noticing, is there an emotion associated with that?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into the whole thing. Did the feeling come up first and then the emotion? Is the emotion just a thought, or is it the thought creating? I don't care. It doesn't matter, really. The idea is to notice, just notice for me. And so when I notice it, sometimes very briefly, it can actually intensify a bit. And then going, oh, that. It's intensifying because I'm shining the light of awareness on it, or whatever you say, noticing it. And then it quickly starts to dissipate. And I'm not trying to make it go away. I'm just saying, oh, sometimes it's like, oh, you again, but what do you want? What's up? More curious, what's up? And then noticing how my mind can wrap all kind of stories around it. Oh, it's because of the timeline of the separation, or I've got clients coming up back to back. Oh, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So just feeling it and allowing it. And, you and I as mental health coaches know that we use, maybe I'm assuming you use too, the emotion that comes up is like waves of the ocean. I love that metaphor, analogy. And it comes up, and once I notice it, it's like, whoa, big wave here, right? Maybe a little wave, maybe a freaking tsunami. I don't know. And then it's like, and it will always go back again out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just waiting for it to go out, but it does go away. And it's kind of like when a headache goes away. I don't really notice the headache is going away until it's gone. And all of a sudden I go, oh, headache gone. Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I love so much about what you just said, and I'm reminded of many things that I've learned from you over the years of being so lucky as to know you. I certainly do a lot more of noticing the stories that I'm telling myself thanks to my friendship and collaboration with you. And also I'm noticing the way that you practice presence. Like, as I think about how you were describing earlier, what I was calling an expansiveness through time, like sort of noticing parts of yourself that you thought were more resolved, and looking, ahead to what we all look ahead to ultimately, which is our own deaths. Like, I noticed that, like, that all the skills that you've developed over the years in being present, right? Being in the exact moment as it is, sort of, I wonder how that, if that feels like it changes the quality of the relationship to the past and the present, or in the future for you. Like, yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. It changes it, I think, because when I am on autopilot, I still am sometimes, probably more often than not. I can I can get like numb to life. I'm just, on autopilot. I'm on the hamster wheel, whatever. So yeah, it changes my perspective on things a lot. And being on what I call autopilot, there really isn't any perspective other than just keep going through the motions. And then until something big comes along and kind of whacks me upside the head and goes, wake up, Kim, something's going on. So sometimes intentionally taking little moments to just notice again. Yeah, it does change my relationship to my past. Also, as I get, quote, older, the things that were sometimes regrets or painful or, quote, failed relationships, which I don't believe there are is such a thing as a failed relationship. They, I'm really reaping the rewards and lessons from those things. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
so just different perspective of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And gosh, it's so beautiful to get a deeper peek into what you're in the midst of. And I wonder if that's where we're starting to wrap up today, if there's a nonprofit that you'd like to highlight or spotlight for any reason.
Yeah, there's a local one here called the Roanoke Wildlife Center, I believe it's called. I don't look at it, but I think it's called the Roanoke, Southwest Virginia, not Roanoke, Southwest Virginia Wildlife Center. I knew I didn't get it right. And they're in Roanoke. That's why I say that. They do a lot of kind things for a lot of animals that are wild animals that are injured, and they reintroduce them back into the wild. And they can always use some help, volunteer or money.
Beautiful. Yes, they do great work.
Yes. And I want to
Fantastic.
add a second one. Just always have donated to Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that's all. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
I like their mission of
Yeah,
more intentional parenthood.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. With understanding the importance of holistic health in that aim, right?
Yes, especially focusing a lot on women's health too. And
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my friend, thank you for joining me in this conversation. And I wish you and I wish myself and I wish anybody watching or listening ease and joy in the midst of all of our learning curves.
Yeah.